Good evening, class. We are looking at practice test number 1, covering module 1, chapter 2, equations and inequalities. Before that, I want to remind everybody that whenever the time comes to take an exam, I'm assuming everybody's taking the exam on their own. So before starting the exam, please read the following pledge aloud. This is what you find in your exams, each and every one of them. I pledge on my honor that I will neither give nor receive unauthorized assistance during the exam. Unauthorized action includes, but are not limited to, the use of notes, text, graphing calculators, search engines, PowerPoints, or any other resources not explicitly allowed. I can't emphasize this enough. Again, just want to remind you, when you take the exam, assume you're taking the exam on campus. All right, so we start with the first part. The first question, we want to answer the following. We want to find the distance between the 2 points having coordinates -5 and -6, and the second one 4 and 2. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line segment that joins the two given points. So we want to find the distance first and the midpoint. So what do we know? Reminding everybody that following Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared gives you the formula for the d. So this distance is y sub 2 minus y sub 1. This distance is x sub 2 minus x sub 1. When the first one has coordinates x sub 1 and y sub 1, and the second point has coordinates x sub 2, y sub 2. Therefore, x sub 2 minus x sub 1 quantity squared plus y sub 2 minus y sub 1 quantity squared. And it doesn't matter which one is the first, which one is the second point, because you find the difference and you square it. So when we look at these two, 4 minus -5, that means 4 plus 5, quantity squared. 2 minus -6, that means 2 plus 6, quantity squared, under the radical. 4 and 5 is 9, squared 81. 2 plus 6 is 8, squared is 64. They add up to 145, and this is an exact answer, everybody. Square root of 145 is the exact answer. What is this? This is an approximation. So you always answer exact. If you want to go with the approximation, you have to pay attention to the number of decimals they ask you. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of the line segment that joins the 2 points. So the formula is x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2, y sub 1 plus y sub 2 divided by 2. In other words, add up the coordinates and divide by 2. And just to remind you why this is the case, if you draw a couple of line segments parallel to the x and y axis, okay, this one and this one, then you have this big and this small triangle. Those are similar figures. So triangle ABC, ABC, the big one, triangle CDE, this little one. So we're going to quickly look at the proof, everybody. The little one and the big one, they are similar. Why are they similar? Because all angles are equal. How do we know all angles are equal? Angle C is in common between the small and the large triangle. This angle E and this angle A, both of them are 90 degrees, which makes the third one also equal. If two angles are equal, so is the third one, because the sum must be 180 degrees. Therefore, when we're dealing with the similar figures, we have a common ratio among the sides as well. Therefore, we can say, for example, CD from the small one, BC from the large one, CE from the small one, and AC from the large one. They must be the same. because if two figures are similar, okay, corresponding angles are identical, they are equal, corresponding sides are in ratio. So CD over BC. And since we know D is the midpoint of these two, that means CD and BD are identical, then CD must be half of BC. CD must be half of BC. So we replace it with 1/2. We do the cross product, 1 times AC, 2 times CE, cross product. So AC becomes 2 times CE. So AC, if it's equal to 2 times CE, that means AE and CE must be equal. Okay. Now, what is AE? Remember, the x coordinate for A is x sub 2. The x coordinate for C is x sub 1. And the x coordinate for E is the same as x coordinate for D, the midpoint. Okay. So what is the midpoint? Let's call it x sub m. So we have AE, this distance equal to EC. So we are going to write x sub 2, this is x sub 2, minus x sub m. In other words, this distance, everybody, let's see. This distance, which is AE, is equal to x sub 2 minus x sub m. This distance, which is CE, is x sub m, the midpoint, minus x sub 1. And I hope you see that if you move things around, this goes to the other side, becomes 2 of them. This goes to the other side, they add them up, divide by 2, and therefore that's a proof. If we can prove it for the x coordinate, I leave it for you to check out the y coordinate. I highly recommend you prove that on your own for practice. Having said that, what would be the midpoint? Add up these two numbers divided by 2, add up these 2 points divided by 2. So minus 5 and 4, it's negative 1/2, minus 6 and 2, negative 4, divided by 2, positive, negative 2. And so we write for part A, the answer was square root of 145. For part B, the midpoint has coordinates negative 1/2, negative 2. Again, I just wanted to remind you about the proof for each case for the distance as well as the midpoint formula. All right. A man drove 10 miles directly east from his home, made a left turn at an intersection, and then traveled 5 miles north to his place of work. So we go this way, and then we go that. If a road was made directly from his home to his place of work, what would its distance be to the nearest tenth of a mile? So,
really
we have to set it up. So from his home, he moves 10 miles east to the right, and then 5 miles north going up, creating the following shape. So this distance is 10. This distance is 5. This distance is missing. So we use Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. 10 squared plus 5 squared equals C squared. This is 100 plus 25, 125. And again, This is an exact answer, everybody. This is an approximation, and the units, the same units. This was 5 miles, this was 10 miles, so this is in meters. If so, how much shorter would the man's one-way trip be every day? If we could go straight, and obviously we go from here to here and up here, that means we go 10 plus 5. So we're going to subtract this one from 10 plus 5, which is 15 minus that number. So 15 minus now an approximation gives us about, again, 3.8 miles. Please understand, on purpose, I just used one decimal. You shouldn't. You should always follow the instruction. This is an approximation. We want to solve this equation. This is a rational equation, and I hope everybody remembers how a rational equation can be easily solved. Okay. So to solve a rational expression, the best course of action to factor every denominator. This is fine, this is fine. This can be factored into what? We want two numbers. The product is -3. The sum is -2. So we get +1, -3. And so we factor the last denominator. And before we move on, it's important to exclude the answers that we cannot have. X plus 1 equal to 0, x equals -1. -1 is excluded. X minus 3 is 0, x equals 3, 3 is excluded. The same thing here. So we write x can't be these two numbers. Why do we write that? In case at the end, we get a couple of answers, one of them is that, we make sure to exclude that. Now, the fastest and easiest way is to clear out all fractions, which means we're going to multiply both sides by LCD, which is x plus 1 times x minus 3. So I put this in brackets, and I put this outside, meaning I'm multiplying by this one, and by this. So if I multiply these two, everybody, x plus 1 goes away, and I get 5 times x minus 3. When I multiply these two, x minus 3 goes away, I get +1 times x plus 1. The right side, everything goes away. I just have the numerator left. So this is the way you do that. So one more time. Multiply these two. X plus 1 cancels out x plus 1. You get 5 times x minus 3. Multiply these two. X minus 3 cancels out 1 times x plus. Multiply these two. The denominator completely goes away. Now, a rational equation has become a simple linear equation. 5x minus 15 plus x plus 1 equals -6. These two add up to 6x. These two add up to -14. And we move it to the other side. That means we add 14. Remember, when we move a number from one side to the other side, we change the sign. Divide both sides by 6. 8 over 6 is 4/3. And that's the final answer. We should always check everything is fine, and we are done. Lines, slopes, and its interpretation. What are the cases here? So you have a line, and the slope is defined as rise over run, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. The way you write that, you can write delta y over delta x, rise over run, or y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. This is known as the average rate of change of y with respect to x. You have various lines here, vertical, horizontal, and otherwise. If you have HL short for horizontal line, the equation is y equals a constant, y equals b. The slope is 0 and the y-intercept is 0b, okay? Such as this one. If you have a vertical line, x equals a constant, the slope is undefined, and x-intercept at a comma 0. That's a general statement. Standard form, there are different formats of a line. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. Slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x up. Now, again, going back to this shape, this one, a horizontal line with the slope 0, vertical line with the slope which is undefined, a line that has a positive slope and a line that has a negative slope. In the case of a positive, as we move from left to right, x becomes larger. So what happens to the y? In the case of a positive slope, the y gets larger. In the case of a negative slope, the y gets smaller. Two lines are considered parallel if they have equal slopes, different y-intercepts. Two lines are considered perpendicular if the product of their slopes is -1, or one of them is the negative reciprocal of the other, m sub 2, -1 over m1. So this is the synopsis of what we have learned about lines in elementary algebra, in intermediate algebra, and hopefully everybody is comfortable with that. So having said that, we want to answer the following. For parts A and B, graph the following lines in the rectangular coordinate system and clearly show the intercept on the graph. So x equals -2. It is a vertical line. So all you have to do, locate the x-intercept at -2, 0, and then draw the line. Y equals 3 is a horizontal line, okay? And because y equals 3, then the y-intercept is at 0, 3, and then you have the line. Very straightforward, everybody.
Yes.
And we want to find the equation of a line that contains the following 2 points, 4, 0, 4, 5. I hope you realize you don't have to do much because the x coordinate is being repeated. X is 4 here and x is 4 here. You're dealing with a vertical line with the equation x equals 4. On the other hand, for this one, line containing these two pairs, both of them have the same y coordinate. In other words, y equals -7 here, y equals -7 here as well. So that must be a horizontal line, y equals -7. You don't have to go through the process of finding an equation of a tangent line that we are going to do in a moment in the next couple of examples. So again, if you look at this one, since the x repeats, then it must be a vertical line, y repeats, be a horizontal line. Now, find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form that passes through the following points. Find the intercept and graph. Obviously, reminding everybody of some of the stuff we have discussed. And because we want to come up with the equation of a line, the first thing we're going to calculate is the slope, rise over run, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So using this formula, we're going to have -6 minus 10 over 5 minus 3. This is negative 16. This is plus 3 makes it positive 8. And the ratio is negative 2. So we found the slope. We are going to use the point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x of 1. And we use one of those pairs. It doesn't matter which one. For example, if you use this one, we get y minus 10 equals m, which is negative 2, x minus negative 3, which makes it x plus 3. If we use this one, it looks different, but if you solve, so if I use this one, everybody, then it would be y minus 6 becomes plus 6, m, which is negative 2, x minus 5. Now, when you solve, these two look different, but I'm going to leave it for you to solve for y. For this one, obviously, for the bottom one, I'm going to quickly show you. So this is minus 2x minus 6. You move the negative 10 and make it positive 10. So you get y equals minus 2x plus 4. In fact, if you solve for y here, you get the same thing. Now, here's what I highly recommend you do. Because we use the first pair to come up with the equation, check it with the second pair. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, we've made a mistake somewhere. So if I plug in 5, negative 2 times 5, negative 10 and 4, do they add up to negative 6? If they do, we are done. So we found the equation, and now we want to graph. Of course, I can use the two pairs, but I highly recommend you use intercepts always. To do so, one of them is given practically 0, 4, right? But what about, so that is called the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 4 in a pair format, 0, 4. The x-intercept, you set this one equal to 0 and you solve, and x becomes 2. So those are the pairs, 0, 4, 2, 0. Those are the two pairs. And if you connect them, and if you put the other 2 points as well, this point negative 3, 10, and this point 5, negative 6 are also underlined. You could have used those two pairs, but always use the intercept. They give you a more precise graph. Okay. Find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to 3y equals x minus 4 and passes through the point negative 2, 1. Find the intercepts and graph. All right, so to do so, the very first thing is, if we want to find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to this, we have to find the slope for this line. That means I have to divide both sides by 3 first. So if I do so, the slope for the given line is 1/3, which makes the slope for the line perpendicular to that negative 3, the negative reciprocal, or their product must be negative 1. We're talking about this. Point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x of 1. So y minus 1 equals m negative 3x minus negative 2, which makes it plus 2. So we add the 1, and we get y equals negative 3x minus 5. Okay, let me actually erase my work so you can see it. So this is the line of interest. Now, to graph This one, I want to go back and graph the original one also, so we can see the setting. We can see both cases. Okay, so when we go back here, if x is 0, y becomes negative 4 over 3. If y is 0, x becomes 4. So those are the two pairs. 0, negative 4/3, 4 comma 0. Those are the two pairs. And that's the line that is the original line, everybody. This one, obviously, it's the y-intercept, -5, meaning 0 comma -5. And if I set this one equal to 0, x becomes -5. I'm assuming we can do that. So let me just quickly show you. This is 0. You get minus 3x minus 5. And it results in x being -5/3. So you're going to plot those two pairs and putting them together, and the two lines are perpendicular. By the way, if your grid uses a different scales, it doesn't seem to have a 90-degree angle here. That's the meaning of perpendicular. It makes a 90-degree angle. But if they use the same scale, for sure it shows that. So this is the pair that was given, as you can see on the graph. It is located. And now let's do an application problem, everybody. A retired woman has $50,000 to invest, but needs to make $6,000 a year from the interest to meet certain living expenses. One bond pays 15% annual interest. The rest of it she wants to put in a CD that pays 7%. If we let X be the amount the woman invests in the 15% bond, how much will she be able to invest in the CD? Set up and solve the equation for how much the woman should invest in each option to sustain a $6,000 annual return. This is an example of a word problem known as a mixture problem that works in the same manner. So having said that, first and foremost, we want to come up with this table that says, okay, and everybody remembers I equals PRT, that is the simple interest. So the first one pays 15%, the second one 7%, and here's the total. By the way, one may ask, okay, why not put all of it in the 15%? There are always restrictions, okay? So that might be the case. So, all right, so according to this amount is X, the total amount 50,000, and the total amount of interest is 6,000. So put them in a proper place. Now, how much do we need here? You can use a different variable and go with, a system of equations. Or you can say, y, but it is important to know that these two add up to 50,000. So if we don't want to go with the system yet, we say this is 50,000 minus X. All right. And so having said that, now we are ready to work with I equals PRT. P, the principal is X, R is 15%. What about T? This annual return means T equals 1. So let me just write here, T equals 1. Okay. Okay. So if that's the case, this is 0.15 times X. This one is 0.07 times 50,000 minus X. And they must add up to give us the $6,000. And this equation, when we get to it, of course, by using this table, we are practically done. The rest becomes easy. So a quick recap. You come up with a table And again, this is an exam. This is also a class of problem known as a mixture problem. Just when you mix two different liquid, for example, with different concentration. And so having said that, you set up a table, 15%, 7%, X amount here, 50,000 minus X here, because the total is 50,000, and then I equals PRT will do the job. Okay. So you put 0.15x. If you multiply these two, by the way, I hope everybody remembers that the way you multiply these two numbers, just 7 and 5 is 35. Then you say you have two decimals, but you have four zeros. You have more zeros by how many? By two. So you put two zeros, okay? This is a simple methodology. I hope they have taught you in elementary algebra. So 0.07 times 50,000 is 3,500. With this one is minus 0.07x. This is 6,000. That's what we have. Now, these two give us 0.08x. Subtract 3,500 from both sides, you get 2,500. Divide by 0.08, or you can add two zeros and divide it by 8, and that gives you the answer for the 15%. I'm going to erase my work. So the amount that we should invest at 15% is $31,250. The rest of it, 50,000 minus that, which is $18,750 at 7%. And what you should do to check, put that into this, making sure the left side becomes equal to the right side, or 6,000. Okay, so make sure you put the money here. This number times X, and this number, this number times 0.15, and this number times 0.07, they should add up to 6,000. Laura starts riding her bike at 20 miles per hour. After a while, she slows down to 12 miles per hour and maintains that speed for the rest of the trip. The whole trip of 70 miles takes her 4.5 hours. For what distance did she travel at 20 miles per hour? Well, you're dealing with a class of problem called motion problem, and we come up with this table. So motion problem. D equals RT. According to motion problem, distance is equal to the rate, the average rate times time, the average speed times time. That's the concept, everybody. So let's put in what we know. So we put the starting time to start, the rate is 20 miles per hour. After a while, I'm just using the same wording, goes down to 12 miles per hour. So this is how you put the numbers. So I put the first number, I put the second number. As I move on, it says, and it maintains that speed for the rest of it. The whole trip is 70 miles. The whole trip, the whole distance, the total distance is 70 miles. So this is 70. And it takes a what? Total of 4.5 hours. Total time, 4.5 hours. So for what distance did she travel at 20 miles per hour? Let's figure it out. So what is the time here? You can say X, Y, Z, T. That's your choice. then what would be the time here? If the total time is 4.5, then this must be 4.5 minus t. It's important not to mix them up. It's not t minus 4.5. It's 4.5 minus t. Because these two, and all you have to check them out. If you add these two cancel each other, we get the 4.5. And now d equals rt. D equals rt. So distance is 20 times t here, and 12 times 4.5 minus t here. And the equation is from this last column. The total distance is 70 miles. So this one plus this one must be 70. And that's it. So you find the t, and then you try to answer the question. So this is 20t. 12 times 4, 48, times half is 6. They add up to 54. And then this is minus 12t. These two, they add up to 8t. 54 positive. Moves becomes negative. With 70 becomes 16 divided by 8. T becomes 2 hours. So what is the distance? So I'm going to go back to the question. For what distance did she travel at 20 miles per hour? This is the distance, everybody. 20 times t. 20 times 2, 40 miles. So make sure you go back to the question to see if you have answered the question. Just for the sake of argument, if they ask, how long does it take while she's doing 12 miles per hour, you could say 4.5 minus 2. That means 2.5 hours. Okay. And what is the distance? So 70 minus 40 or 30, or you can check it out here. Simply 2.5 times 12. So there are two ways to check it. First, solve the formula for W. And we know the parameter is 2L plus 2W for a rectangle. Then use your result to find the width W of a rectangle whose length is 15 and whose perimeter is 58. Reminding you, everyone, this is a rectangular shape. Here's the width, here's the length, and P is 2L plus 2W. So I want to solve for W. So we are going to move the 2L. If we want to solve for 2W, we're going to move this and subtract. We're going to divide both sides by 2. And it is extremely important to know that you can't cancel these two. What you can do if you want, and you don't have to, you can say this is P over 2 minus 2L over 2, and this is L. You can say it's P over 2 minus L. You can do that. But in any event, now P is 58 minus 2 times L is 15. $58 minus 30, 28, divided by 2, 14. The width is 14, and you can check 2 times that and 2 times that, they must add up to 58, and they do. Two times 15 is 30, 2 times 14 is 28, they add up to 58. Always check your work, everybody. Okay, we are going to move on. Perform the indicated operation and express the result as a simplified complex number, -1 plus 2i in the parentheses minus the parentheses times the parentheses -2 plus 3i. So complex numbers. Let's remind everybody what complex numbers are. Complex numbers are in the form of a plus bi, where I by definition is square root of -1. Therefore, square root of -n would be I square root of n. And when we do the operations, we can't have a negative under the radical. We have to change it accordingly. And so having said that, I is square root of -1. I squared is -1. And I cubed is -I, so on and so forth. So to distribute, obviously, class, you distribute the -1, you get +2 minus 3i, then you distribute the 2i, you get -4i plus 6i squared. Now, reminding you that I is square root of -1, I squared is -1, and this one, class, just to make sure, understand this is I squared times I, where I squared is what? -1, that's why it becomes -1. I to the power of 4, you can think of it as I squared or -1 quantity squared, okay? And so if this is the case, and I squared is -1, so this must be -6. These two add up to -4 minus 7. Let me erase my word so it becomes easy to see. So a quick recap before we continue. Complex numbers are in the form of a plus bi, where square root of -1 is I, by definition, which makes square root of -n, I squared of n. I squared is -1, therefore I cubed is -i to the power of 4 is 1, and then this cycle repeats. Now, if they said simplify, divide, or put it in standard form of a complex number, it all means the same thing. The process is to multiply by the complex conjugate of the denominator. First, I want to remind you of conjugate numbers. Recall a minus b. The conjugate is a plus b, and their product is a squared minus b squared. So we're going to multiply and divide by the complex conjugate of the denominator, which is 2 plus I. And you have to do this. Please understand, this fraction must be 1. You can't just multiply or divide by it. You have to do both. Now, we have to multiply the top, the both numerators and the denominators, but I want to remind you, if a minus b times a plus b is a squared minus b squared, I hope you recognize a plus bi times a minus bi is a squared minus b squared I squared, so it's a squared plus b squared. Therefore, the denominator is 2 squared plus 1 squared, because the coefficient of I is +1 here, -1 here. So according to this, a squared plus b. And this is just foiling. 3 times 2, 6, 3 times I plus 8i plus 4i squared. I rather use I squared and then change this to -4, okay? This is obviously 4 and 1, 5. These two add up to +2, and these two add up to 11. And the reason, again, let me erase my work. The reason I want to write it in this format, because if you leave it as that, there's nothing wrong with that, except you should be able to answer what is A, not 2, rather 2/5. What is B? 11/5, if they ask you. That's why perhaps putting it in this format makes it easy. Now, don't operate on numbers that are negative under the radical, change them accordingly. For example, this one, 9 becomes 3, square root of minus 1 changes to I, 3 remains, and this is 4I. So this is how you do that. This is 3I, and this is 12I. They add up to 15I. I to the power of negative 6, we write it as 1 over I to the power of positive 6. Everybody remembers that a to the power of minus m is 1 over a to the power of m. And so I to the power of 6 is the product of I to the power of 4 and I squared. So it's 1 over I squared or 1 over negative 1 or negative 1. Now, this was fairly easy. 6 was a small number, but I want to show you how we simplify powers of I using this fact. So uh, there are different ways of approaching them, but the best course of action is to divide this, and I'm going to show you for this one and then some other examples. So if I have an exponent, I divide it by 4, and it doesn't matter what the answer is. The answer is 1. What matters is the remainder. I keep the remainder. So for example, what is I to the power of 1225? I'm going to divide 1225 by 4. I don't care what the answer is. I hope everybody knows that the remainder is 1. And how do we know that? Because the number is divisible by 4 if the last 2 digit is divisible by 4. We know 24 is, so this gives you 1. So this is I to the power of 1, or I. Just to make sure we understood that. What about I to the power of 43? Let me quickly show you. 43. If you divide by 4, I hope you see that the remainder is 3. Okay, again, 40 is divisible by 4, 3 remains. So this is equal to I cubed. And you should know I cubed is negative I. And that's the final answer, everybody.